you so much for coming and for being part of this sojourn this morning. On behalf of FourMinds Training and Consultancy, I would want to thank you for the hour that you have given us today. I hope we are going to share one or two things that can make a difference to all of us as we go in our corporate space. FourMinds Training and Consultancy is a corporate institute which is based in South Africa, Pretoria. And as you can see from the screen, these are some of the services that we provide: face-to-face training, off-site training, online, in-house, team building, HR consultancy, and research, among others. Today, I will be your presenter. And as you can see on the screen again, I am Ephraim Patsanza. And what you can see is a little that I, for now, can share with you regarding my experience and other things. Allow me to gallop on. Today, I've invited you so that we can share a little bit on some of the aspects that we have realized in the working space are falling short. And that is communication. In as much as we assume that communication happens every day, every time, it is not happening well. I want you to get me right here. Communication always takes place. Communication started taking place right from the time when you were in your mother's womb. But here, we want to talk about communication from the top drawer, communication at corporate level. So in other words, we want to try and sharpen it and chisel it so that we can be able to produce the results that we are supposed to produce in our different organizations. In other words, I am saying here we need to make our communication effective, impactful. So how do we do that? I'm not going to be talking rocket science with you here. I'm just going to be kindly asking you to walk with me along this pathway where we are going to be dichotomizing the self, you and me, with regard to how we have been doing our work, how we have been communicating, how we have been relating with colleagues, with clients, and all the other people that may form part of those that we interact with on a day-to-day basis. The first thing that I would like you to do for me is to ponder on those questions. The 5 questions that I've presented to you, please quickly go through them and think about them. As we go, I am kindly going to also ask that if you feel you've got something to say, to comment, to add, to subtract, please don't wait for the end of the session. You can always come in. And thank you in advance for that. I want to believe you have gone through the questions and you are busy thinking about them. Wherever you are, I'm sure you are relating to your company, to your country, to your cultures, to the men and women around you. I'm taking you to the next slide. Where I stay, where I am now, South Africa. These are some of the things that we are living with. We are in a South Africa where race issues are still quite an issue. Very hot issue, especially between blacks and whites. Some people still say apartheid is still existing. That is blacks accusing whites. Whites are saying, no, it's not. There's always this pushing and shoving. I want to take you maybe to a point where we look at these and we compare to your scenario. This is my scenario. I've been a lecturer at an institute where predominantly the students have been whites. 80%, 80+% of the students will be white versus 15% blacks. You go for a lecture which will always be supercharged, where you have to be very sensitive to each and everything that happens there, that is said. So in that group, or in any group that you would go to attend for election, there is this thing called ethnocentrism existing in that group. By ethnocentrism, what do we mean? We are talking of a situation where groups will focus, ethnic groups will only focus on themselves as the best group. Allow me to give an example, maybe from Uganda. You have the Lango, you have the Wanyankole, you have the Waganda, and so on. Each one of you will be thinking you are the best. Hence, you become so ethnocentric. You become so centered on your ethnic group, and you think everything that is good, everything that should be done, the way that it should be done, should only be about you and your ethnic group. It exists here. There are gender issues. Women are fighting quite a lot, making a lot of noise, that men are suppressing them. Men are not giving them opportunities and chances. Men are also fighting back in one way or the other. It's another issue which still is causing a lot of noise here. Sexuality. We have gays and lesbians walking the streets like anyone else in South Africa. I know some of us may be coming from countries that are still anti, that still think otherwise, that looks at it differently. That's okay with you. But here I'm talking of a situation that we are living with. South Africa is a country which I will describe as having a cocktail of cultures. So many cultures are represented in this country. There are 11 cultures existing in South Africa. But there are also 53 other cultures from the other 53 countries in Africa that are here in South Africa. I'm just taking one ethnic group from each country in Africa. So we say 53 plus the 11. But that is just an understatement because we know we've got so many other ethnic groups that are represented. If we may take, say, Cameroon. Cameroon has got around 200 plus ethnic groups. If we would take one person from each of those ethnic groups and place them here in South Africa, what number do we have? One from each ethnic group in Uganda, in DRC, and all the other countries that we may think about, not to even mention the European countries that are also here represented. They are here. We also need to look at Christianity versus atheism. It's also here existing in South Africa. There are atheists here. There are Christians here. There are nudists here. And in red, I've put it, all these people, they've got rights. And they want to exercise their rights. They want their opinions to be heard. What are we saying here, ladies and gentlemen? Why are we talking about this? Why are we making reference to all these people? And why have I asked you to think about the people around you? We're still talking communication. I said, let us dichotomize. Let us walk together along a pathway where we take a look at the way we have been doing things, the way we are doing things. Have we been doing good or have we not? It's time to take stock. Let's continue galloping on. Allow me to go on to the next slide. Employee engagement. How does it impact your business? We ask here, and we are being told from research, 70% of all employees are disengaged in their work. And that is one of the 5 most important challenges that are facing organizations. And that is not exempting your organization, my organization, and the next guy's organization. So in other words, we are working, we are spending days in organizations that are bleeding. And why is it that 70% are disengaged? Why? We're still talking communication, ladies and gentlemen. Here are some of the reasons. Deliberately, on number 1, there is ineffective communication. Because there's been quite some clear realization that we think it is happening, but it is not effectively happening. And because it is not effectively happening, it is contributing to things like discrimination. It is contributing to individual differences that are so many. It is contributing to all other things, all other frustrations, stresses, not to even talk about lack of leadership. which is another cancer that is eating a lot of us in these different organizations. Leaders communicate. Do we have them? Are they doing so? Maybe yes, maybe no. But I think it's a big no than yes. Let's gallop on. Let's take the thermometer and place it under our armpits or in our mouths, and let us see. Here are some questions that I would like you to think about and honestly answer yourself. I said this is a pathway in which we are, among other things, going to be dichotomizing the self, dichotomizing you and me, taking a survey of how we have been doing things, how we are doing things, and how we will do things going forward. Do you ever think of your colleagues? Do you ever think of their welfare? Do you ever even say, good morning? How are you today? How was your weekend? Maybe we do, and maybe we don't. There's what we call fatigue communion in communication. That which we do every morning when you probably come to work. You say hi to each other. It's important because it sets the tone of the day. You don't want to come and sit and share the same office with someone you have not even asked or checked on their health. In as much as it may be small talk, but it helps to set the tone, the working tone of the day. Do you consider those colleagues? And how seriously do you consider them? What comes to your mind when you see them? Good people, I want you to think. This is about you. It's not about me only. It's about you. Dig deep into yourself. What do you think about them? You see them as these guys that are just coming to eke a living from the same place that you are also eking a living? Or do you see them as part of an extended family member? I mean, an extended family, as members of an extended family? Because our workplaces, we spend quite a lot of hours there. And if you ask me, I'll tell you, they are actually our second homes. And those people that we are spending so many hours with become part of our second family. So do you consider them as just these guys who are coming to take money from this place the same way that you are doing? Or you consider them as these guys who are also coming to help you the same way you are helping them build an organization, build a future, build a legacy? Are you also seeing them as some of these people who can actually come in and hold your hand at a time when probably your sibling cannot hold your hand? Give you ideas where your sibling cannot give you ideas, where your close relative cannot give you those ideas or that help. Who are these guys? Food for thought. We need to be talking to them. We need to be communicating with them. How? How do we communicate with them? We'll get more answers as we dig deeper, as we go deeper into our sojourn. And once more, thank you to everyone who is part of this sojourn so far. And I hope what I'm talking about is making sense unto you. I would want to believe some of you have gone through some of these theories in your studies, the social perception theories. And I'm going to be focusing on the primacy and the recency theories. The effect that we get, upon observing something, how information is presented at the beginning, which is the primacy, at the beginning, primacy, primary, the beginning. When you meet me for the first time, when you meet him for the first time, primacy, what is it that comes to your mind? How do you receive it? How do you process it? And how do you retain it? You look at someone and you realize they're probably not dressed the way you anticipated. There is something that comes to your mind. There's a certain reaction that you may also adopt or show. That is the effect. That is the primacy effect. And that reaction is going to determine how you are going to be working, how you are going to be doing things, how you are going to be talking to that person going forward. You may right from the beginning decide, I don't want to talk to him because he's not what I expected. I do not want to talk to him because he's not from my tribe. He's not from my country. He's not from. And we close the door. The same way we may like that person because we've got our own reasons. We feel they identify with us. They share certain things with us. They present themselves in a way that we like. That will determine where we go with them. The recency effect. Recency, we are looking at the last thing that will happen. I have been talking to you, Edith. I have been talking to you, Harriet. We have worked together. We have done whatever we have been doing so well. How we are going to end whatever we are doing is also equally important. It may have been well started, but it is equally important how we end it. Because if I spoil it at the end, whatever good things that we have done together may be forgotten. So we are saying that is where the recency effect comes in. You focus on only the last things that I've done, the mistake that I've made in the last instance, and that can delete all the good things that I have done before. So in our communication, do we consider these things? We have statements like the first impression is important. Why do we actually make sense of it? Or we just use it because it's just this statement that's probably sounds nice? Do you ever consider how important that first impression dictum is to you when others are presenting themselves, to others when you are presenting yourself. Do you ever consider how seriously it can affect the relationship between you and those people going forward? Do you also consider how the way you end or conclude can be able to delete and affect everything that you may have built with whoever, your clients, your colleagues, for all this time, for all these years? Maybe yes, maybe no. But if the answer is no, then I guess it's time that you really consider the way you behave around other people, the way you consider them. Like I said, we are sitting with a people around us here in South Africa where we think every day, so who is next to me? In terms of sexuality, am I not going to offend them if I talk like this? If I behave like this? This person is a Christian. This person is an atheist. How should I behave? It's not always here that you can just ask everyone, let us pray. But you need to probably check first if everyone is comfortable with prayer. You need to watch your words. Think about them, lest you offend this woman or this man via the language that you are using. We're going to be talking more about that when we get them to the few slides that are coming under. But let us gallop on. Character is power. Yes, it is. And I hope you agree with me. Good people, we are brands. You are a brand where you are. I am a brand. And everyone is a brand in their own respect. The question is, as the brand that you are, when we see you, what do we think about? When we see your behavior, what do we think about? I'm sure you were reading the definition of character here. I ask you now, what kind of groove, what kind of scratch are you putting on other people on a daily basis? Every day, you walk out of your house, you go to work, or wherever you go, you're scratching, you're putting a mark on other people. What kind of mark are you putting? What kind of mark are you putting? I want to take us to the last point where, I mean, the next paragraph, which says, character is what makes you what you are. And that's definitely what makes you different from me and from everyone else, which is why I said you are a brand in your own way. So what is it that you are doing which makes you to be you? And the way you are doing it, does it communicate and create grooves, furrows, scratches that can make communication impactful in a positive way in an organization or around people? I mean, people that are around you. Character signifies the organization of life and behavior around a central reality, which has ethical worth and validity. The organization of life and behavior, your life and my life, your behavior and my behavior, which are supposedly contributing to our ethical worthiness, to our validity, to the organizational worthiness, ethical worthiness, organizational validity. Is yours contributing? Is mine contributing? How do we contribute? This is not just about our skill, but it is about other things as well. If our communication is going to be impactful, we definitely need to be considerate in so many ways. And in one way of, in one of those ways is when we need to engage our emotional intelligence side. Understand what they are telling you and realize how your emotions affect the people around you, how it affects the people around you. This is not just about you, but it is also about other people. Because if you do not consider them, then how are you going to make your communication impactful? How are you going to make it effective? How are they going to really consider you, listen to you, empathize, and even work with you? How are they going to seriously consider you? We are experiencing quite a lot of career suicides because we cannot handle our interpersonal problems. We all have got problems, ladies and gentlemen. We do. But how do we handle them? How do we handle our conflicts? We do have conflicts. We do have difficult times. We experience them. We go through them. But how do we handle them? If there is, it's time to change, do we change? Or we keep holding on to what is no longer working? Are we able to elicit trust from others? If we can only do that if we are good communicators. If our communication is from the top drawer, if our communication is effective enough to make an impact on other people. Let us engage the emotional side of ourselves. It is not always about logic, but it is also about matters of the heart. How does someone feel when you say what you say? Do you ever even bother? Who doesn't want to be listened? I wonder. Because I do. It's very funny how people who do not want to listen to other people want others to listen to them so much. It's quite crazy. And I believe that's quite selfish. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of my favorite slides. The friends who listen to us are the ones we move toward. And that's very true. Why should I come or move towards you when you don't listen to me? When you don't give me an ear? When you don't even empathize? Why? They will go away. They will go to those people that listen to them. That's as simple as it is. We're not talking about something from another planet here. We are talking about ourselves. We are taking this journey where we carry out a survey of ourselves and our behavior systems and how they contribute to the overall communication style that we present to the people around us, especially in the working space where we spend a lot of hours. I would want to believe again, somewhere along in your studies, you may have come across what is called the Johari window. Here, Johari was basically again emphasizing on the importance of communication and how it helps every one of us to discover the self. We all have a closed area, a facade in our lives, in our communication space. We all have a blind area, a blind spot. And we all have an unknown spot. So what are we saying here? We are saying the only way that we can be able to know ourselves and make those blind spots and the facades go away and be able to discover ourselves even more is when we communicate with others. Close yourself in your corner office and everything else will close themselves away from you. But we are saying the more you talk to others, the more you will realize your strengths, the more you will realize your weaknesses, the more you will realize a lot of other things that can surprise you. I've talked about what we call serendipity. And serendipity means the art of making pleasant discoveries. It is only when you communicate with others, it is only when you give space and time to others that you can be able to discover yourself and make those pleasant discoveries. Through them, they will help you make those pleasant discoveries. You may not be able to make them on your own, closed away from everyone else. We are unknown to ourselves to a certain extent. The same way we are unknown to other people. But it is only through communicating that we get ourselves known and we get to know ourselves as well. I talked about the South African situation, how diverse this country is in a lot of things. How diverse is yours? How diverse are things in your organization? I've worked in a space where a lot of cultures will be represented and a lot of other things. My question to you this morning is, how sensitive are you to the diversity that is surrounding you? I've been around so many different people, different cultures. I've met a lot of you guys, some of you here, and a lot of other guys from different countries and so on. I've always enjoyed it every moment with them. I've taken each and every opportunity to learn something from them because I've accepted the differences. And I strongly believe in what Stephen Covey said, strength lies in differences, not in similarities. And yes, I guess in every outing where I meet someone different, I gain something because I've always allowed myself to open to what they say, to what they suggest, to who they are, without stereotyping them and without closing the door on them right from the beginning because they don't share what I think they should be sharing. Statements like those ones have been said. I withdraw my statement. I'm sorry. And we have a question that comes here. Can words really be withdrawn, ladies and gentlemen? Can they be withdrawn? I personally don't think so. So what are we saying here? Instead of always withdrawing, apologizing, not to say apologizing is bad, but why don't you avoid it right from the beginning? And consider what you say before you have encoded it. Do you think about your words, your phrases, your statements, your judgments, your comments before you release them? Your behaviors, your actions? Or you just act, you just behave, and then afterwards you think about it. And every time you want to nauseate us with your sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I think to a certain extent, we need to get to a point where we'll tell you that is sublime nonsense. Why are you always apologizing? So here we are saying, ladies and gentlemen, if our communication has to be impactful in a positive way, here we are talking about positive, impactful communication. Think about what you want to say, how you want to say it, your actions, your choice of words, diction, before you send them out, lest you offend other people, lest you lose business because you've done some of the things that are not supposed to, as a result of carelessness or as a result of ignorance. This is why we are talking about here. About it here. We're just here to remind each other about some of those that we can consider carelessness or ignorance. I'm sure you're reading the questions. And I'm sure you're busy thinking about how you have been going about this gender issue. How careful have you been with your words, with your actions, when there is someone of the opposite sex near you, around you? I'm sorry, but I'm going to be giving this example of something that does not sit with me well. Here in South Africa, we've got what has become sort of a disease with men. They can just relieve themselves, urinate anywhere, anyhow, without even considering who is next to them. Not at all. It has thus become the responsibility of the lady that is next to them, or the ladies that are next to this man, to either look away or to walk away. But they don't care. They don't care. Is that fair? Are you not abusing the next person? Are you not infringing on their rights? Every time that I see that happening, it really gets to me. But you and me also have got other things that may also get to other people, things that we need to stop, things that we need to get rid of, delete. Allow me to move on. Our verbal communication, ladies and gentlemen, our non-verbal communication rather. I don't know whether you know or you don't, but of the communication that we do per day in your 8 to 5 kind of work or day, the communication that you do, 70, 75, 80% of it is non-verbal. And the other smaller percentage, 20, 25, or even 15% is verbal. If you're disagreeing with me, it's okay, but that is the truth. I'm looking at our time and I'm seeing it's no longer being quite friendly to us here, but I hope we'll be able to gallop on and finish off. We are left with a few more slides and I hope we'll be able to. Please go through this. And the pie, I'm sure, can show you how much words, how empty words can be, and how little words contribute. So as you can see, the bigger chunk of our non-verbal communication goes to the body language and goes to the tone, the pitch. And hence, we are saying we need to remind ourselves. We need to be cognizant of how we behave around each other, our body language. Action speaks louder than words. That dictum is a very pregnant statement. But I don't think we've taken it seriously. It's time that you do. It's not your words, but it is your actions, your behavior, your body language, your tone. That's really tells the story, the actual story, not your words. They can be so empty, but we will not forget your actions. We will not forget your behavior. All these are non-verbal actions that we go through in our day-to-day work, business. Haptics. This means touch. When you touch, do you ever think about the touch? What are you touching? How are you touching it? Where are you touching? Why are you touching? Do you ever ask yourself? And do you ever think if you're doing it right? Oculesics, your use of your eye, the use of your eyes. When you look, what are you looking at? Who are you looking at? How are you doing it? And why are you doing it? Where are you when you're doing it? All these need to be considered. Proxemics, we're talking about distance here. The person you're next to, the distance between you and that person, does it mean anything to you? Yes, the answer is yes. It always means something. What does the person next to you think when you're so close to them or when you're so far to them? What message are you sending? Chronemics, time. When you come to work late, a lot of times, what message are you sending? Are you not telling me that you are disrespectful? Are you not telling me that you do not respect your work? With your permission, I'm not going to finish all of them in the interest of time. I know you've left other things to come and be with us this hour. But I hope we will always, somehow, we will have time to go through all of them one of these days to come. The last aspect that I want to touch on is the idea of conflict, which exists in our organizations. Yes, conflict exists. And yes, as you can see from the slide, conflict is a necessary evil. We want it in every organization. We do want it, but we want it in the right doses. Conflict only needs to be managed because it is a very important part of communication. If communication is not done properly, that conflict is not managed properly as well. I borrowed this Brazilian saying, it is dumb if we all agree, and that's true. When we disagree, it helps us in the organization to grow. And that is part of communication. And that is part of impactful communication. We need it. And that is part of the conflict, that the disagreement is part of the conflict, health conflict that we want. There are two types of conflict that we call functional and dysfunctional. The first one, according to Mary Parker, she calls it constructive conflict. And she says, among other things, it encourages exchange of ideas and it reduces stagnation in organizations, among other things. So we need that functional, constructive conflict. We also have the dysfunctional, which can create a lot of problems if it is not managed properly. Trust issues, stress, anxiety, poor decisions. When there is no communication that is impactful and proper and effective, ideas are not shared. And when ideas are not shared, there is no growth there. People pretend. I've never wanted this to be part of a meeting where maybe the manager or whoever is chairing that meeting becomes the only person who is talking and everyone else is saying yes, yes. For goodness sake, is that a meeting? Do you define a meeting as that? No. Why don't you just send us a circular, we sign, and then to acknowledge that we got your message, and that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take you again to the idea of the different cultures, not only in terms of ethnic, but cultures in terms of behavior, systems that are allowed in organizations, how we run our organizations, how we do things, our policies, and so on in our organizations, our values, they are different for one reason or the other. And they need to be considered and they need to be respected. The people who come to work in those organizations are coming from all walks of life. Some are coming from collectivist backgrounds. Others are coming from individualist backgrounds. The question is, and it is in red, should managers honor such values even if their home country values support the different type of values? The answer is yes. We need to be accommodative. We need to be considerate of all the people that we are doing something with, be it as employees or as internal stakeholders, or be it as external stakeholders, clients, or anyone else. It is important. I come to this point where I say, if there is anyone with a question, a comment, an addition, please feel free to say it, and it will very much be appreciated. If there isn't, it is time that I come to this point where I say, let us make it hedge. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to take this opportunity on behalf of FourMinds to thank you for the time that you've given and have allowed to be with us through this short sojourn. Once more, FourMinds, like I said in the beginning, to those who may not have been with us, FourMinds is a corporate training institute that is based in Pretoria in South Africa. And among other things are those that are shown on the screen in terms of services that we give. As you can also see on the screen, we do not only hold our training sessions here in Pretoria, but we've got our other satellite venues that we can go to and hold these trainings if there is need. I know there are some people who may, for one reason or the other, may fail to get visas. For those who come from countries that South Africa will require visas when they want to come here. We do not normally have any issues so far with anyone being denied visas when they come. But if there are such situations, we can always come up with another plan, and we can always go to some of these satellite venues. Some of you may have come to Pretoria before, and you may want to change, and you may want us to go to Kampala. You may want us to go to Victoria Falls. You are welcome. We are flexible to do that with you. So it is our hope that we will meet again. For those who have been part of us and part of the growth of FourMinds, once again, I say thank you. And for those who have not, it is our hope that one of these days we will join, we will meet, we will share one or two things. We will smile, and we will part and meet again and again. I take this opportunity to say to all of you, thank you so much. Webale, murakoze, zikomo, nyabonga, tatenda, asante sana. Till we meet again.